So I was gonna have the Tough Guy and the Common Goal book, or like the reviews into one video, but Common Goal gets its own little video because unlike Tough Guy, I love this book. 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 I love it so much. Like, it's actually crazy. I think it's crazy because it's like all of my favorite, like, we're gonna use 8 of 3 terms here. It's all my favorite tags in one. Kind of, not really, but kind of. I wanna, yeah. There weren't many things that I didn't like about this one, other than, so let's start at the beginning. So it follows Kyle and Eric. Kyle is Kip's friend who works at the Kingfisher, the bar. He is 25. This whole time I thought he was 30. But it's okay. And Eric is Scott's friend. He's 41. Anyway, they had met before, like, the first chapter of the book. They had just, like, seen each other at the bar multiple times because Kyle works there, and Eric, he's constantly there because, you know, he's friends with Kip and Scott, and they've been throwing parties there all the time because they're engaged! Dude, I was so happy when I read that they're engaged. And then we get like a little snippet of their wedding at the end. It's so cute. It's so I love them so much. But yes, and Kyle still has a crush on Kip. And he even knows that it's toxic and bad because that's his friend right there. And he knows he needs to get over it, and he's trying. So he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna flirt with all these hot, sexy hockey men here. And he does. But it's just he's just a little sad because he knows it's bleak that they're all straight. But Eric, he can't get enough of Kyle. So Kyle, he is lean. He's muscular, but not that muscular. And like he used to go skiing, so he has like somewhat of an athletic body, and he does exercise. So that's pretty cool. I hope that did not show. I hope. Oh, we're gonna have to cut the video. I'm gonna put that away for now. Yeah, so Kyle, he's quite athletic. He's lean, he's muscular, but he's normal athletic size. Eric, on the other hand, he's pretty stretchy. Yeah, because he does yoga, so he's very flexible. Anyway, he's flexible, he does yoga, he works out, he's vegan. It's giving he, she, we, vegan, vegetarian, non-binary. Anyway, because he wants to keep up his game before he retires, because he's planning on retiring at the end of the season. That's pretty cool. But here's the thing. He's divorced. He recently divorced. Anyway, he recently got divorced from his wife, and it was kind of a mutual thing. Nothing bad really happened. So that's cool. That's okay. Because one of the tropes that I hate is when it's a married man and then he realizes that he's fallen in love with another gay guy, and then he leaves that wife because he wants to pursue this guy. I hate that trope. Especially in fan fiction when it's like, anyway, because it kind of gives like the other woman, you know, like that one song by Lana. Anyway, so that I was okay because it was actually, I thought it was a good detail that the wife or the ex-wife approached Eric about it. I forget her name. I think it was like Jessica or something. She approached him about getting a divorce because their marriage was going nowhere, and they just kind of live with each other at that point. And he was like, okay, yeah. And so they got divorced. It was cool. But it had actually, so in the first chapter, it had been a year since they got divorced. So that was, a little interesting detail, to put in. But he still kept his ring on just to, like, not bring any attention to him not wearing it, because he planned on, retiring, and so he could still keep his life private, and stuff like that. But I think at that point it had already been, like, known that he was divorced at that time. Yeah. And then, they meet and they talk, and they both have, like, a crush on each other, but they both don't want to say anything, because the only conflict that I see in this book, I mean, other than, like, no, I feel like that's, like, the only, like, serious conflict I'd say, is that Eric thinks that Kyle's too young, and that, and then they had even talked it over, because they actually ended up becoming friends, because guess what? There's actual chemistry in this book, which made me so happy, because I love when it's, like, they're friends. Okay, I don't get when people start dating other people because they're attractive. I mean, sure, that makes sense, like, duh, but they don't start off as friends. I don't get why people don't start off as friends, and then once they learn their morals, their political views, then they can choose to get together. Does that make sense? Because I don't see why people start off just dating just cause, like, I don't get it. That's one of my, I don't get it, because, like, it just doesn't make sense in my opinion. So they actually did start off as friends. They did actually enjoy each other's company. And yes, they both thought that they were, cute. Like, they were like, oh my God, he's so sexy. But they both bond over art and history, because Kyle, he is working on another degree. I can't remember. It's for, like, historical art and things like that, because he really just finds it interesting. And then he wants to go to Greece, and he wants to, like, go to Italy and stuff. And Eric thinks that it's really lovely. He loves to hear about it, because he also enjoys art. He likes paintings. He loves just art in general. He even dabbles in photography, but he doesn't do that just because it just, like, it interferes with his practices and stuff like that. Anyway, so they actually become friends, and Kip and Scott are all celebrating because they wanted. It was phrased so weirdly, and I think that was on purpose to, like, I don't know, add, like, tension or something, because this was at, what was it? It was at Eric's party. Their names are so confusing for some reason. It was at Eric's party, his birthday party. He had just turned 41, and Kyle was invited by Eric specifically, and he brought drinks over because he's a bartender, so duh. But the weird thing is that, like, did Kyle clock that he was invited by Eric because Eric wanted to see him? Because here's the thing, Eric doesn't drink. He doesn't drink. And the only times we do see him, like, drinking is with Kyle, but he doesn't drink. And it's them talking about making a virgin version, tongue twister, of that drink. And I think, wait. Okay. So I don't know if you've seen the show, then, you're obsessed with it just as much as me. There's this theory going, I don't know, I think it's confirmed that when Shane asks for a ginger ale, the way they talk about it, it's like, and how people react to it, it's how comfortable he is with talking about his sexuality to certain people. Because when he goes to a restaurant, they say they don't have ginger ale, and so he conforms and gets sparkling water. Or when he goes to a bar, even though the bartender has ginger ale, he's like, you know what, just get me a beer. Weird. But when he's with Ilya, he has ginger ale, and he doesn't judge him for drinking ginger ale. Do you think that Rachel Reed took inspiration from her own book, a different one, and put that, like, boom? Because the way they talk about it in the book is very similarly. He usually just gets water when he's at a bar, but Kyle goes out of his way to make a virgin of a different drink, you know? Like, is that, like, that's... But hey, that's just a theory. A game. Anyway. But most of the times when they, like, talk about drinks, it's like that. I forgot where I was talking about. Oh, that's right. So, they were talking about paintings because Eric had a lot in his house. And it was super cool, super cute, super awesome that he had a bunch of those. And Kyle took interest in that. And he was like, oh, like, you like paintings, or do you just have them up? He was like, oh, no, like, I like them. I enjoy them. They're really, they mean a lot. You know, they're just bonding. They're bonding. And then Kip and Scott are going to leave early because they have, like, an early day because they're planning their wedding. They're planning their wedding. And so he went to go just to go tell Eric that they were leaving. And then they see that they're hanging out and they're like, yes. And they're like, what? He's like, oh, we've been wanting to get you guys to get together. Together? No, because, like, Kyle was like, what do you mean? And he was like, oh, we've been wanting you guys to become friends. So, okay. So that was cute moments like that. Very cute, very cute. And then, yeah, so they actually end up becoming, like, pretty close friends. They hang out whenever they can. And then during, like, I forget what had happened, but I think it was over text when he was like, hey, come over, we just want to talk, just stuff. And then it got really, really late. I think it was at another party of his. And so he was like, you can spend no, it was at his 41st birthday. It was like 2 a.m. and it was like too far away for Kyle to go home and then be ready for like freaking work the next day. So like, you can stay here. And so he does. And the whole night, both of them were thinking about each other. And Eric was thinking about, you know, Kyle. And then Kyle wanted to, but he was like, no. And then he was like, wait, what if he's thinking about me? So that, you know, so that was awesome. Yeah, they're like really good. I mean, they're just kind of friends for like a big portion. And then Eric comes out to Kyle and he was like, I'm bi actually. Insert Kit Connor. Yeah. So, you know, that was cool. I think it's awesome that they're, you know, because okay, a lot of books, almost all gay books, they're all just gay. They're not like pan, they're not bi, they're not T for T. I rarely see that. I rarely see T for T. I need that. Sorry, excuse me. So I'm glad we're getting some diversity in the gayness. So that's awesome. Anyway, so yeah, and then he was like, oh, okay, like, have you ever been intimate with a man before? And Eric was like, no, I've never done it before. And he explains that he's never actually allowed himself to think gay thoughts. That's sad. That's really sad. That is incredibly sad. That's crazy. Because, like, I would say it's almost internalized homophobia, but I wouldn't know because I never felt that way towards myself. So I really have no say. So what are your guys' opinions on that? Because I don't know. And so... Kyle was like, okay, well, we can set a date where we can go out and I can help you find a guy who, like, you know, you want to hook up with. Because Eric wants to do a hookup just once. But here's the thing. Eric has never been one to do hookups because if he's going to do something sexual with another person, there has to be something serious going on. Like, they have to be in a relationship or something. Think about that for a little bit. Remember that. And so they try to line up a date, but it's like it would have been like a month until they would have been able to do that. So Eric's like, let's go tonight. So they're at a different bar. And like the whole time Eric is like, oh my gosh, no, he looks so young. He looks like the rookies. So the reason why he thinks that Kyle is too young for him is because the rookies, so like the kids on the team, they're around his age. They're in their early 20s, mid 20s. Because again, he's 40. He's a little old. Anyway, so that's why he thinks they're young. And so he wants to find someone around the same age, and then they end up not hooking up with anyone, so they head back to his place. And then, or no, what happened? I'm like thinking, I'm trying to remember, because there's so many scenes that like are very similar to this, but they like are towards the end. I'm trying to think. I think what happens is, Kyle starts flirting with a guy, and then Eric leaves. And then Kyle's like, hey, why'd you go? And he was like, you're having fun with that guy, so I thought I'd leave. And then he's like, okay, well. And then they kiss. Anyway. And then Kyle's like, if you need help with anything else, anything else, practically begging at this point, it's like, just call me. And then Eric's like, this seems morally wrong. It's not. This seems morally wrong. And so he doesn't do it. He thinks about it for a week, and then he doesn't do it. And the next time they see each other, Eric's like, yeah, I was thinking about it. He's like, but I don't think I could ever do it. They do it. I'm going to talk about when they do it later, because that's a whole conversation. For a different section of this video. Because we'll get there. So anyway, they do it. And it was, mind you, it was his first time. So these were a little overwhelming for him. Anyway, so at this point, they're friends with benefits. And I think I like how their intimate scenes were written, because Kyle has said to be he's very experienced with being with other guys, because he's great. He's gay. He likes guys and only guys. And Eric has never been with a guy before, so he's quite inexperienced, other than, being with a girl. So that's, even then, I think he's only been with one girl, and I think it's been her. That's crazy. Anyway, so after that, they remain friends with benefits. And they're still friends, and they talk about things, and they talk about their past relationships and things like that. And I think Kyle asks Eric, like, why he thinks that he can't date anyone just a little younger. And he says that, it's because, like, the rookies and things like that. And then Eric is like, no. Kyle's like, oh, well, I like older guys because it makes me feel like this, and that. So at this point, I didn't know what their dynamic was when it came to, being, like, intimate. So I was like, is he a top? I was right, he's a top. So that's why it made him feel powerful. So it's like a whole power dynamic type thing. So yeah, okay, so my stance on their relationship when it comes to, like, being intimate is that age gaps are they're cool. But it just depends on your situation, because age gaps can get quite complicated. Because let's say it's an affair, and this comes in clutch later. Well, I'll talk about it later. But let's say you're at a job and you're having an affair with your boss. See, normally an affair is bad to begin with, but let's just say it's just let's just say no affair going on, and it's just you and your boss. Your boss, because of, like, there could be an age difference. Because of the age difference, your boss could take advantage of that. and they could say, if you don't do this, I will take this specific amount of money out of your paycheck. And that's bad. And you might be thinking, well, just tell someone. Sometimes they don't like, a lot of times people don't believe the worker because again, there's a power dynamic. Or they could be like, oh, if you do this, then I'll give you this amount of money. And so it's like a never-ending cycle type situation where it's like blackmail at this point. It's just blackmail. Yeah, or they could be like, oh, if you do this, I'll fire you. And let's say it's like your only job. Because sometimes if someone's trying to manipulate you, they may ask about your personal life. And let's just say, for example, that this is your only job and no one else is accepting you anywhere. And so they're saying, hey, if you did this for me, then I'll give you a job. Kind of like, if you've seen Legally Blonde, I forget his name because he's literally not important. But he tries to sleep with Elle because he thinks she's cute, and that... So Elle this whole time thinks that she's just a really good lawyer, and that he sees that, but he just sees a pretty girl. And so he tries to sleep with her to give her a job opportunity. So that's what could happen. That's what could happen. And I'm saying this because it's like it's a big part of the book as well, because Eric wants to be in a relationship that both patrons feel safe in, and he feels like if there's an age difference, then maybe the other person might not feel safe in that relationship. And I feel like when Kyle tells him a story, which I'll get to right now, that he feels like, oh, he needs to back away, and he does. He actually stops talking to Kyle for like a few weeks, and what had happened was Kyle was he was having an affair with his boss when he was 18. He was freshly 18. And this story is just so sad because he really couldn't have done anything because of the fact that he was, by law, he was of age. And he had it kind of reminded me of, what was it? Shameless with Ian and Cash. But what had happened was they had done intimate things with one another, and Kyle had sent photos and videos of himself to him, and the guy's wife found out. And because they're rich, they had got an investigator, and they found those videos and things like that. So who knows, maybe those videos are still out there on the internet because of the investigation that they had done. And so his parents just had him leave town. And Kyle couldn't have done anything legally about that because of the fact that they were both adults. And I think that's literally what made Eric back away from Kyle for a while, because he was like, whoa, I don't want him to feel like that's going to happen to him again. And then they have a whole conversation again, about him. That was him being young. That was him when he was younger. And he's learned, but he even doubts himself, saying, has he learned much? He has. Whoa, I'm having a stroke. But what makes him doubt himself is because he still falls for older guys, attractive older guys, because most of the time they just think of Kyle as a young guy with a fun time, or just a one night stand, or just someone to use. And so that's when he gets hurt, and that's when he doubts himself. But that's not his fault. That's the other person's fault. Who is Kyle to know who he's getting himself into, no pun intended. Anyway, that whole conversation ends up with them sleeping together again, and things get a little more intimate, and I'll get to that. And then things go back to normal with their dynamic. They still talk and stuff, and Eric is dealing with his own things as well. He's struggling to tell anyone that he's retiring. I think this is a different turn from a coming out book that I've seen before, and I actually like it. Is that Eric struggles to tell people that he's retiring rather than telling people he's gay. Applaud for Rachel Reed, because honestly, but then again, it also just makes sense, because for Eric, he's been doing this the majority of his life. And he's closing, as they say in the book, he's closing a big chapter of him, like a big chapter of his life, and so quickly too. But he tells Scott both that he's retiring and that he's gay. And it was kind of funny because Scott thought he was trying to ask him to sleep with him, which isn't true. He was like, no, I'm just here to tell you. And then, yeah. So he's dealing with his own stuff. And Kyle's watching freaking Drive-ins, Divers, and Dine. Diners, Drive-ins, and Dine. But it's the grocery. What's it called? What is it? Guys, Grocery Games. Okay, here's the thing. So, in a lot of books, they make up fake shows, fake songs, fake, music artists, fake actors, just for like anything in general. And in the books, I never really saw that they like made up anything about like shows. And for some reason, I thought that that's what that was. And I was like, you know what? Let me look it up. And I was like, wait, it's Guy Fieri. Yeah. Anyway, so they share lunch with each other, and it's so cute. It's so cute. They share lunch. I forget what they ate, but it's like eggs and tomato paste with bread. I don't remember what that's called. Tikka masala? I think that's what it is. Yeah. I'm thinking about it. It was a familiar, weird name, and I remember that name, so. Yeah. Anyway, they do it again. Immediately after that, they do it. I kid you not. I was just... And then he's like, he tastes the food, and it's like, ew! That was gross. Like, he could taste the food in his mouth still. That's gross. Ew. Especially because they had eggs. Why would you have eggs and then have sex? That's gross. Because, like, eggs make you fart a lot. That's gross. Anyway, this time... No, I can't. I must resist. I'll tell you later. And then after that, Eric, I think he finally announced that he was retiring. And everyone was like, What? I don't think he came out to anyone because, okay, one thing that I love about this book is that Eric, he's the one who's secretly gay. And he's not ashamed about that. He's just like Ryan Price. And he's not ashamed about being gay. And he's not secretive about being gay. They have a fight. And I can't remember what happened exactly. But Eric said that they couldn't be together. They couldn't. And Kyle was literally saying that they were perfect for each other. They're good for one another. They're both great friends in general. And Eric was basically lying to himself and Kyle, saying that well, not necessarily fully lying, but he was like, that he deserved better, and that just too many things interfered with them being together, which isn't true. The only interference was himself. Bars. Anyway. And so, yeah, and then the next time they see each other, it's at, I think, another engagement party or something, and I can't remember. I can't remember everything. I don't know why I don't write anything down. I don't think. I can't remember what happens first, but Eric feels bad. Like, it takes him a week. Oh! I'm remembering the timeline. They spit. I'm shifting. I remember. I'm wrong. So they actually go on a hike together. And so Eric basically asked him on a date. He's like, do you want to go on a hike? And then Kyle's like, can we have waffles? Okay. And so they go on a hike, and then after they have waffles, they talk, and then they're in the car, and that's when Kyle was like, hey, like, we should be together. And that's when the whole argument happens. Like, oh my God. And then a week passes by after that whole argument thing. And then my brain is thinking, I'm having a brain aneurysm. And then, oh my God. Bro, I just thought of it. It takes him a week to apologize. Damn, I forgot. Anyway, so it takes him a week to, like, apologize. So he walks into the bar, and then Kyle's all freaked out because he was like, wait, where's Scott? Where's Kip? Because he's usually with one of them too. But he's like, no. He's like, wait, he's coming straight at me. And then he apologizes. Wait, no, I'm getting ahead of myself. That's literally the end of the book. Bro! I'm missing a whole piece and I can't find it. I can't find the one piece. Anyway. Something happens where, like, they're at a party and they had, like, some sort of, like, argument. I think it's when Eric hadn't talked to Kyle for, like, a whole week because of that whole... It is. Guys. So, remember when I said that for a whole week Eric didn't talk to Kyle? That part. So, the reason why they got back together, I don't remember what I said, but I was wrong, I guess, because they were at a party. And Kyle was off work, and he was, you know, on the dance floor, he was partying, he was shaking ass, he was like, And Eric was there. And then I'm thinking, oh yeah, and then Eric gets hard because he's dancing with a guy, and he's like, fuck, why did not think of that? One thing that I find really interesting is that Eric thinks that he absolutely, by all means, cannot date Kyle, but then again, he can't see Kyle being with anyone else but him. This little obsessive trait. I'm like, yeah, okay, man. Anyway, yeah, so, like, that happens, and then Eric fully walks out, and it's, like, winter in Toronto, so freaking Canada. Bipolar freaking weather. Anyway, so he, like, runs out without his scarf. No. He brings his scarf, but he completely forgets his jacket. And then as he's walking, Kyle walk. Oh my God, can I speak? I sound crazy right now. Kyle follows him outside, and he's like, hey, you forgot your stuff. And then he was like, why did you leave? What's up? And he was like, oh, you seem like you were having a good night with that one guy. I thought I'd just leave you two together. And he was like, oh, okay. He's like, we were just having fun though, you know. And then Eric was like, oh, do you have a scarf? Because, you know, Kyle looked really cold. And he was like, no. And so he gave him his, and they kiss. They make up, make out. Oh. Yeah, and that's when they do it. And then that's when, okay. So, yeah, he was like, okay, let me call an Uber. And then they were both considering having car sex, but they didn't. So, it was pretty cool. Anyway, back to what I was saying. They had a fight. They make up. Oh, yeah. So, Eric walks into Kyle's work. And he wasn't expecting to see him. He's like, what are you doing here? Literally, what are you doing here? And he was like, I came to say sorry. He's like, it really took you a week to say that. And he was like, yeah, and I'm really sorry. And he explained himself. And then, mind you, they're in the back room. They make up, make out. And, dude, they were literally about to do it right then and there. But then, like, wait, I have to get back. And then they both, like, are crying and happy. And the realest line in the book is, like, you do realize I have to go back to work right after this. Real? So that was the end of the book. Super cute. I love how it ended. They go to Greece. So there was a mention in that last chapter. Yeah. So, Eric got really excited. He was like, after, they made up, he was like, I want to go with you to Greece. Let's go to Greece together. They do! They go to Greece with each other. So in the, was it prologue? I can't remember which is which. The one that takes place after the book. That one. They're at Kip and Scott's wedding! Why didn't they get their own, at least, short story where it's like Kip and Scar are planning their wedding? I love them so much. I love them so much. Anyway, so yeah, they're at their wedding and they're just there, and it's so nice. They're having a good day, and they're both like reminiscing about their time in Greece, and they're thinking of going to. As I was saying, they were planning on going to Italy together. And that's it. That's it. That's common goal. Now, the moment I've been waiting for. The spicy bits. Okay. So, I like how it was put together. I love it so much. So the first time they hook up, well, not really. I mean, it's for educational purposes. But it was pretty normal. I think I might need some visual aids for this. Okay. So now that I got my sketchbook, we can put the visual aids together, okay? So, you know, first time they hook up, Kyle is showing Eric what to do and things like that. So mind you, Eric has only really relieved himself because, you know, like stress or just tension, right? That's what he said. And so when he does it, it's quick, efficient, that's it. He calls it efficient, that's it. Kyle was taking it slow. And that, you know, that's it. And here's the thing. Here's the kicker. Eric liked being told what to do. He needed to be told what to do, and he likes being told what to do. Stop. Anyway, there was this one part where so you know, I don't know how to put this into words. Kyle was just okay. This is where the visual aid comes in. So Eric didn't want anything. He didn't want penetration. He didn't want any of that. So Kyle was okay. So this is Kyle. This pen is Kyle. So that's what was going on, right? Right? Visual. I hope my family doesn't see this. Anyway, Eric really likes this. I'm sorry, you guys need to read the book. It's so good. Anyway, Eric really likes that. And so Kyle keeps doing it. And it only dawns on Kyle, like, after they had finished. He was like, okay, here's a visual aid as well. So, yeah. So, I'm just too scared to say the word because it's not really a bad word. But what would this be called? This little corner. A synonym for corner. Exactly. Kyle loves doing that. And he was like, do you know what that is? Eric was like, no. So the second time they did it together, he introduced, I'm gonna call it the corner. He introduced the corner. This book is so good. He introduced the corner. And, okay, this is the only time that I'm giving Rachel Reed her praise for her writing. Because, if I'm going to be honest, her writing is a little iffy in my opinion, but that's because I've read a lot of fan fiction over the years. Anyway, that scene was so well written. I don't want to go into details, but that scene, jaw dropped. I love her wording for it. And I don't want to go too much into detail, but let's just say that Eric was a little, like, desperate per se, if you know what I mean. He was a little but yeah. Yeah. It's just like, it's so good. The third and last time they do it, at least as far as I remember, this is and the next one is the third and last time in the book they do it. And it's so good. So in this one, Kyle brought some stuff from his house. And it's not what you think, unless we like are on the same brain frequency. He brought a blindfold and restraints. He brought him for his ankles and his hands. Like I said, my favorite tropes in one book. Anyway, yeah, so, yeah, and then, like, yes, okay, so, like, I need to take a breather, this is a lot, anyway. So, Kyle asked Eric, so do you need me to tie the arm restraints to the bed frame? And then Eric was like, no, and then in his brain, he said like that, or like it was like narrated, he was like he didn't need the restraints because he wouldn't disobey Kyle like that. Anyway, that's all I'm gonna say. I rate this book 10 out of 10. The conflict with the hockey, amazing. The scenes, amazing. This book, amazing. Thank you for watching, guys. You guys should follow, subscribe, like, comment,